Hello everyone, this is Mr. Massacre playing a game of Starcraft 2 on the Biolab as Terran. I'm orange, my allies are purple, Auschwitz, and yellow, ManontheMoon. My enemies are a red Protoss, a blue Zerg, and a teal Terran. Now, the first thing of any note that happens in this game is a Zergling rush from yellow. ManontheMoon sends his Zerglings over to teal and interrupts his mining. This is always a good tactic to use when you have a Zerg on your team because it allows you to slow them down. That's the whole objective of the Zergling rush. You don't have to kill everything in the base. It's basically impossible, as you're about to see. There you go. Sorry about that. Anyway, here are bunkers. I want to make a note of this. Bunkers are very, very useful for early game strategy and even mid game strategy in StarCraft 2. Much more useful than they ever were in StarCraft 1. Now, here we have yellow rebuilding his Zergling forces. I built sensor towers all around his base and all around purple's base. The reason for this is to provide an early warning. Here yellow sends his Zerglings over to attack red and it doesn't work. This is exactly what happens when you do not micromanage. You gotta micromanage. I want to mention here that I always try to go for a 2-to-1 ratio of miners to minerals, and I'll show you this in a second. Wait for it, here it is. Now, I didn't succeed in this when I tried to do it. See, I'm missing 3 because there are 8 across, so I would have had 16 to 8 if I had 3 more there. This is always good to have. Now, I need to build some air forces. This is what I did for the whole beginning part of this. My mid-game strategy was to build air forces. I built Vikings because Vikings are the most balanced air unit that Terran has access to. The only other 2 air units that can attack are battle cruisers and Banshees. Banshees can only attack ground units, and battle cruisers are overkill for mid-game strategy. I would not have been able to pull that off. So, I want to point out here that I have been using the ability of the upgraded command center to Orbital Fortress, or whatever it's called, to drop supplies onto my supply depots and increase their limit. This is very, very useful. Now, I attack from here, going across into red's base, and then I sweep across into blue's, which is where all of my forces end up biting it. Now, I camp right here. This is my good camping spot, which ends up being my first expo. Here's my second expo, the high yield. Now, my problem was that I didn't defend either place well enough, and I should have pulled back from blue's base, as you're about to see. Now, this is basically the climax of this whole video. This is basically where everything that happens. So, it's definitely worth paying attention here so you can see what I did wrong. Don't make the same mistakes. I'll mention that I should have built 2 engineering bays and got more infantry upgrades. That's always a good idea to do. Bunkers are always a good idea. I know I said that, but I want to repeat it. Bunkers are great. And I wanted to mention that I should have attacked more. I didn't attack with the early infantry that I had built up, and it probably would have been closer. But if I had built some medevacs and dropped to the sealed base, the fight would have been a lot easier. Here we have the primary push that our opponents made the push, and they end up getting beaten back. I assist with my infantry right before I end up attacking. Here, my infantry are here, and I sweep them across. Now, they end up getting destroyed by a Psionic Storm, which you'll see in a second. That was very skillfully done on our opponent's part. Psionic Storms are kind of tricky to target in the middle of fighting, but he did it perfectly. Now, I sweep across into red's base, drop the Wraith. Red left his base completely undefended. He hadn't constructed anything with photon cannons or had any kind of defenses left behind. He got his base completely destroyed. I could have stopped him there if I had known that he was manipulating other buildings and choked them off. Here's where the Psionic Storms get sent in, 1 and 2. Now, up here in red's base, I want to mention micromanagement. Micromanaging your troops can make killing a base go faster, which can delay their counterattack, their counterattack, and make things go a lot easier. Here's where I micromanage. Push the troops forward so you don't have those bozos standing in the background not shooting anything. It makes killing the buildings that much faster. Do this in the heat of combat, get good at it, and you'll be able to make your troops go that much farther. Now, I moved them forward towards the choke. If I pushed past the choke, I probably would have been able to eliminate him completely. Unfortunately, I saw the Hydralisks camp, and I decided that with that many Hydralisks left to go, couldn't be more waiting for me, could there? Well, I was wrong. Here are the entire blue base full of Hydralisks, and then I get flanked. So yeah, my forces basically got butchered. I pretty much figured the game was over at this point because my initial counter-offensive was gone. But as you can see here, the bunkers pushed back the third base. It would have been over if I didn't have those bunkers. I sent forward Banshees and ended up getting a combination of Psionic Storm and feedback blowing the distance. Right where those two Dark Templar went was to my first Expo. I probably could have stopped them if I had sent the forces forward sooner, but I figured there would have been no way to save it, and I didn't really prioritize that. And what I mentioned before about the corner where I was saving my units, I guess that became the second push. Here's my second push into Red's territory, which ends up getting beaten back, but I do some damage. I'd like to mention that. I did do some damage with minimal forces there, because my enemies were using the classic Starcraft 1 strategy of building nothing but Hydralisks. This does not work in Starcraft 2. I don't think that the learning curve is quite picked up yet, but nothing but one unit type just does not work. I did get my second Expo destroyed, and here's where I end up holding the third one. The third one, right before I make my last statement, I highlight this video, is that I was downed, pistol out, and they were coming for me, and everybody quit on me, and we still pull away the win. That's what I thought anyway. Upon further review of this replay, I come to find out that they were no better off for resources than we were, and they were even worse off for units, and my 22 Marines and 1 medevac could have handled it. I tell him to cancel his hatchery there and build it here because the creep is there and I can't land. He goes ahead and does this, and his drone gets killed by a zealot, overzealous zealot, but no big deal, he still got some more left. I sent him 200 minerals to help get him back on his feet, because I didn't really need them that much at this point. Mineral exchange, always a good idea, trust your allies. I used the mules. Mules are very, very good. I'd like to point that out, mules are good. Mules will turn the mineral in your favor, because it turns out multiple units can be mining the same rock at the same time, and mules do not interfere with this at all. So the mules just boost. They don't get in the way, they don't cause your SCVs to do anything, they just boost the production no matter what when you use them. Can't mine gas though, worth mentioning. Don't try to build mules to mine Vespine gas, it doesn't work. Now, I follow the Hydralisks here, up into where my second Expo was, and Red continues to get stomped by Purple here. It's very, very good. Purple's screaming at us to counterattack because he's going up there and clearing out the Expo. That was a really good idea on his part. Congrats on that one. That was a really good idea. And all I got left, I send into Teal's base. I do some damage. That's another thing to mention. See, I combined units and I did some damage. But ultimately it wasn't meant to be. Teal came back to the screen upper left-hand corner of the screen. They spanked. There was nothing I could have done. That just ended terribly on my part. Now, after that happened, I figured I was in last stand. I've got nothing left. They're coming, and all I can do is make my stand. So I go to my barracks and I pump Marines. All the minerals I've got left, I dump it in Marines. And then it occurs to me afterwards that it's a good idea to build at least 1, maybe 2 medevacs, and then I look at my Vespine and I can see I can only afford 1. So, I do it. I cancel the 2 Marines off of there, and I construct my medevac. The reason for this is obviously to give some medical support to my Marines during my final push. If I had thought it through, I probably would have used bunkers. Now, looking at everybody's resources here, you can see that they're not any better off than I am, and they knew it, but I didn't, which is why this game ends so anticlimactically. Anyway, shout out to ManontheMoon and Auschowitz, who were my allies in this game, and like and subscribe please.